Is Matt Eberflus sabotaging the Bears? Are they enabling Justin Fields? There is so much going on with the Chicago Bears right now, who just completed their rookie minicamp, and we've got so much to talk about. So you know what, Sammy? Let's cut to it. Let's start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
Trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
It's Tuesday night. You know what that means. It is time for Take It to the Rank. Now, I want to thank everybody who is joining us here an hour early programming note. And I'm going to explain why. Listen, I try to be as transparent with you as possible. The whole reason that we are leaving, that I have to have this show on an hour early today. Here's what I want you to do in the future. Check the Angels schedule. If the Angels are ever giving away an Ohtani bobblehead, which they are tonight, my daughter has we've made a deal that as long as her grades keep up, she will be able to go out and get every Ohtani bobblehead. She's been crushing it. So we'll be going to the game tonight. Hopefully watch them win another contest. But you know what? This is not an Angels podcast. We're going to be talking about the Chicago Bears. And with so much going on, I wanted to bring in the smartest man in the room. And let's bring in Shayne Marsaw of the Tape Never Lies Network. Shayne, first of all, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. You snuck that H in my last name like everybody does. Marsaw.
I can't. You said it before the show started, and I made a mental note of it.
It's typical Angels fan. You know, me being a Dodgers fan, I got to give you some grief, bro.
That's why I did that. That's why 100% I did that. But also want to make sure, how's your family doing? How's everybody going?
We're getting there. Going through a little bit of it. My mom's got one more chemo treatment left on her cancer journey. My son had his cancer screening a couple of weeks ago and everything was clear on that. But now we're dealing with my dad falling. And like I said, it's been a trying few months. Bears haven't helped, but we got Justin Fields, man. So that's my kids are helping out. We got Justin Fields. So that's what I'm happy about. That's
the great takeaway. And that's the one thing, Tape Never Lies Network, everybody, Bears community, Bears fans, we are all pulling for you. So that's good news. Great way to start off the show with all that good news. So hopefully everybody will continue to progress as we move forward. But what you were talking about, Justin Fields, and we might as well start there. It just feels like it's getting weird online. Like people, how has Darnell Mooney gone from a guy who potentially could be a breakout wide receiver one, but now people are arguing whether he's even a number two? What's happening?
I don't know what it is. I think the media and the Bears beat reporters and 97% of Bears faithful just think that if the Bears go out and spend an exorbitant amount of money on a guy like Christian Kirk, that everything is fixed. Just look back at 2015 when they drafted Kevin White. We thought wide receiver one was fixed for the next 10 years. Yeah. And how does that look now? It's all about big names with surface level football fans, and beat reporters know how much we are a rabid fan base and we're going to take everything to heart. Darnell Mooney, I'll take Darnell Mooney over Christian Kirk all day long.
100%.
Yeah. I'll take Byron Pringle. I don't think there's anything wrong with Byron Pringle. He's just not a huge name. So people see that and they just automatically assume that he's not going to be as good. And I understand Ryan Pohl's approach. It not stripping it down and just trying to fill a hole with a big money, big name player. It doesn't work. That was the Ryan Pace method. It didn't work. We saw it right there. He's doing this, and everybody wants to say that it correlates to him not believing in Justin Fields. I think it's the exact opposite. I think it points 100%. We're going to build around this kid, but we're going to be patient. We're going to be prudent in our decisions, and we're going to do it the right way with a solid foundation, and then we'll go from there.
That's one of the things that I've noticed too. When you look at what they've done with Zach Wilson with the New York Jets, to me, I don't know why people don't look at it the other way. Like they don't trust Zach Wilson. They got to put as much talent around him as possible. It's kind of like there's kids that, when you were growing up, like I had a neighbor, his name is still Matt. When he was invited over to people's houses, They knew that there was they needed limited supervision. They could trust him. Like, he's fine. Like, we don't need a thing. Now, when I was invited over to somebody's house, there was always a parent present.
Oh yeah.
All the flammables were put away. Like, the liquor cabinet was like there was like, hey, wait a minute. But like, no, but it makes sense. It feels like they have a lot of faith in Justin Fields. And somebody, and this wasn't me, but somebody pointed out, and it might have been you, that there were 3 or 4 games last year where if the Bears had a decent secondary, Justin Fields would have won those games. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, San Francisco. So I think that it showed a lot of faith in Justin Fields that, like, hey, we don't need to overspend or overcorrect for all this stuff that's going on.
Yeah. And number one thing that we haven't even talked about, to me, is the biggest factor is the Matt Nagy effect, him not being here. And I know, got to shout out DDP. He was the first guy on that train saying that, hey, we better pump the brakes here. I don't care that he got coach of the year, all that. And obviously Phil was 100% correct. And I think that this is a big part of what their plan is. I think Ryan Poles and Coach Eberflus sat down, went through, saw some of these guys and said, hey, you know what? If we get some competency in here with the new offensive coordinator in here, getting Justin Fields into a rhythm, maybe relying on the running game a little bit more, this is going to be more effective. Matt Nagy just never bought into that philosophy. To Matt Nagy was the wide receiver one. He was going to be the impetus to why the Bears won. It was never going to be a quarterback. Yeah. Matt Nagy was going to be the guy. Doesn't work that way in the NFL. It really doesn't.
It really is unfortunate because I've been on your show starting with the Matt Nagy era. I might have bled over to the John Fox era. I don't remember, but I remember being like one of the most ardent Matt Nagy guys. Like, I really
was right there with you. I wanted to let him get his own quarterback in here in the draft. That was my thing. Yeah, it didn't work.
I really believed in the hiring process. Like, that's the one thing about Ryan Pace that I will give him credit for this. And I think a lot of the things that we're seeing the improvement of is because of Ryan Pace. I think that Ryan Pace would have liked to have had an associate GM like Ian Cunningham. I think he would have liked to have added some extra personnel, which we see people getting promoted. Right. There was a woman promoted a couple of weeks ago. Like, there's a lot of progress that's happening that I think did start with Ryan Pace. And I think that drafting a quarterback, trading for Khalil Mack, and what he did at some point worked, but some of the decisions, like, you're like right intentions, but still did the wrong thing. Like, ultimately you still got to make the right call. Like, it's cool. You should draft a quarterback. You got to draft the right one. And you know what?
Can't follow it up with drafting Adam Shaheen at number 36.
Yeah,
like he did with Mitch. That's worse than the Mitch pick. I mean, when 100%. You think about it, Mitch, it's just you can't do it. And Ryan Pace, with all of these misses, I agree with you. I mean, part of me really expected them to bring Ryan Pace back. Did I totally agree with it? I saw
the idea of doing that.
Yeah, but you hear all of these guys come in, you hear Eberflus, you even hear Ryan Poles talk about the facility now. The Bears never had that. And that's 100% the predecessor. That's all on Ryan Pace doing all that. And that is going to be a big springboard forward to what they're going to be doing in Arlington Heights. And that's when everything is going to get really crazy. I mean, I don't know your feelings on that about them making the move, but
well, we've talked about it here. I think I've talked about it on your show. I love the idea of being down at Soldier Field, and I love the fact that that's where my dad went to games and things like that. My dad also went to games at Comiskey Park that was now torn down. The Cardinals don't even play in Chicago anymore. So at some point you got to move on. And I think I told Phil this, is that the moment that I stepped into SoFi Stadium is the moment I said, we got to move to Arlington Heights. And I would tell anybody, I hope I've given an invitation out to Kyle Long, who loved the idea of playing on the lake. And I'm like, I appreciate your point of view. I will never have the point of view of a guy who actually played in Soldier Field. So I respect that. I will take you around SoFi Stadium. And if you still feel the same way, then I will respect it. But I think it might change your mind. And I think that all you have to do is even going to Minnesota might even change your mind as well. So I think that, and listen, Chicago, the greater Chicagoland area, you're fine. Like, Arlington Heights to downtown Chicago is like the same distance from Inglewood to downtown Los Angeles.
Sure.
So it's the same thing. Okay. Like don't even try to question it. It is the same thing. So I'm with you. I think that there's a lot of good things happening for the future of the Bears. The foundation has been laid and Ryan Pace died so Ryan Poles could live. It's one of those things. And it's unfortunate for Ryan Pace, but I think 5 years from now, we'll be able to look back and be like, it wasn't a complete disaster that everybody's going to make it out to be, but it's still, and he made some mistake. Like he did, as you said, start chasing. He started being the guy on the blackjack table who's going to the ATM. It's like, bro, if you would have just gone to bed, you probably would have saved $500. You probably would have saved $500. You might still have a job, but I think it was better overall for everybody involved. And you were able to bring in somebody like Matt Eberflus, who was handpicked by the general manager, although apparently he's sabotaging the team.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into
it. Listen, you say the things that I'm not allowed to say, and I've had Eric on the show, and I'll bring him on again, even though people tell me not to. Listen, I'll give everybody their fair share.
I would respect Eric more if he would debate people about the things that he writes, but he instantly blocks people on Twitter. If anybody come on. If you read the headline and then you go in and read the article, it's two totally contrasting points. Right. And it's, it's clickbait, but it's in the title, sports mockery. It is what it is. So
it is. I will tell you this too. I will have him back on.
Yeah.
I will give him a fair shake. And he was pleasant and he supported his ideas and it's great. But also I will say this from an editorial perspective. I don't know who writes the headlines for that website because NFL.com, I do not write. If there's a headline that you do not like, I do not write those.
Sure.
I try not to throw anybody under the bus. I never come right out and say it, but a lot of times there's you have a person that works on your team that specializes in SEO. That's search engine optimization. And so you got to get these keywords in there so that people will be looking up stuff. People kind of understand the game now.
Absolutely.
So you got to have that. It's like being at the grocery store back in the day. We're old enough to remember when there were tabloids printed on paper.
Oh yeah.
TMZ was printed on paper. Well, not TMZ, but the equivalent. And it was, like weird things like that. Like
National Enquirer.
Boy born with forehead made of molten lava. I don't know, but I got to read. I'm going to read it. I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to check it out. Like credit to them. I read that story.
Sure.
I read it.
But if you're going to write it, you got to stand behind it and you got to be able to have the ability to debate it. If there's going to be people that love it, I mean, hey, he's got a lot more followers than I do, but you got to have the ability to debate it and not just instantly block people. And I think that more so than anything is what turns people off to Eric Lambert. But
I've been insta blocking a lot of people and I feel bad about it because then they come out and they're like, this guy's soft. It's like, if you were straight up attacking me, calling me names, like I'll debate whatever. Like I say dumb things. I've got to defend my Velus Jones could be Deebo Samuel take. And I said, that's not what I said. First of all, Packers reporter.
You're not alone in that though. A lot of people are saying it,
but I said, he's like a Kirkland version. And sometimes I like Kirkland better. And I think Velus Jones, unlike Deebo, no disrespect to him, actually wants to run the football and will do whatever is asked for him. But listen, Shayne, we got I guess we got a ton of questions, which is not a surprise when we get you here, by the way, DDP, can we go DDRP? Cause there's a Diamond Dallas page.
Yeah, I know we've talked about that. He's like, man, you got to bring up, I'm the only 4-time guest with rank. I think he said,
oh my God.
I know him and Berlissimo were going back and forth.
Berlissimo. I'll bring in Bear Down Cuz 3 more times. I'll bring in you 3 more times.
Yeah.
Don't get too cocky, Phil.
Yeah. Phil Atoshin is anything but cocky, right?
Anything but. But let's get to the questions. We have a ton of them. A lot of great fans here. John Laurie included. I saw on NFL Network that Kyle Brandt said that you have been saying for 5 years that the Bears will win 10 games. What's your response? So he was calling. Okay. Well, first of all, Kyle and I are friends. He's poking the bear a little bit because I'm always the optimist. I am the most optimistic Bears fan, and I'm happy to wear that. I really am. And unfortunately, when I'm on GMFB in 2 weeks, I'm replacing Kyle for the week, so we don't get a chance to go back and forth because we always have a lot of fun.
He's probably going
when
to
we're on
Buffalo Bills minicamp.
Stop it.
Pants,
Stop,
right?
stop. Kyle's great, and he's just needling me, but I am the guy. Like, I am that guy who is always like optimistic. I'm always looking for the bright side of things. I think I was on their show the year that the Double Doink year. I was on NFL. I was on Good Morning Football that June, giving 5 reasons why the Bears were going to go to the playoffs. I had a sick floral shirt on. I had a white belt. I remembered all this because people were ragging on me. Like, this guy with his stupid floral shirt, his dumb white belt, saying the Bears are going to the playoffs. It happened. The following year, I said the Bears were going to win 10 games. They won 8. I was close. They won 8. Listen, I've only, last year was the only year that I was completely wrong. I'm going to have a more measured approach this year, but I think that I think my process has been correct. So yeah, I'm cool with it. Like I'm Kyle's teasing, but I'm definitely cool with it. But I know you guys hate Kyle. Please don't hate him.
Hey, he's a Bears fan. I mean, he's going to be back on the bandwagon when we're winning consistently, right? And we'll just kick his ass. We'll kick his ass back off.
We'll haze him. We'll haze him a little bit. We'll haze him like some good-natured ribbing. It is difficult though.
We'll have Lambert write an article about it. How's that?
Oh my God. This is why we bring you on. I will say this though. It's easy to get wrapped in, especially with an AFC team. Like, I get linked to Jacksonville a lot because I support Tony Khan. I'm a big fan of his wrestling promotion, and I don't hate. I mean, like, if I have to pick an AFC team that I want, I'd rather have it be Jacksonville than anybody else. No disrespect. Maybe I don't want to upset the Carr family. So you know how it goes, but I'm not going to wear their gear on television unless it's a bit for Good Morning Football Weekend. And then I'm doing a character, which is completely different.
What if they came to you and asked you to wear an Aaron Rodgers jersey?
Never.
Could you do it?
It would depend on what it is. Like, if it's a specific, like, Good Morning Football Weekend is always different because, like, I'm playing a character. I'm doing a Boston. Like, when I do the Boston stuff, I play my cousin.
Right.
Like, it's like Saturday Night Live.
Sure.
They are, Kay wears the Bengals stuff. Kyle supports, but it's always an AFC team though. So at least that way they're not wearing Rams gear or doing anything like that. So you got to give him credit. Give him credit for that.
There you go.
Not great, but he's teasing. He's having a go. It's a lot. It's all fun. What do we got next, Sammy? Red Hat Duck. What's the name of the report? What do you think of the report that Flu's had the most intense rookie minicamp and most reporters? I'm sorry. I should put my glasses on. Are my eyes getting this bad? I can't even read the screen now.
I got it.
Yeah. You know what? I like that approach. I think one of the things about John Fox, if we go back that far, is John Fox was notorious for being very lax. And I had a colleague at the NFL Network who played for John Fox, who, when he was hired, was like, oh, Coach Cupcake is not going to hold these guys accountable. He's like, that's probably a bad idea. And I don't know. And I think with Matt Nagy, we are pretty undisciplined. A lot of times we saw a lot of bad penalties. I think it's kind of a nice departure to have a mini camp that's a little intense. What do you think?
I love it. He came right out day one in his introductory presser and said, hey, get your track shoes on. And the first person I thought of was the guy that we need to step up in Eddie Jackson. I'm an Alabama fan, and Nick Saban, I've talked about it 5 or 6 times just on our network at different times. He decided he didn't want to tackle at Alabama. And Nick Saban said, you're a captain of my team. If you're not going to tackle, I'm going to set your ass over here on the bench and you're not going to play. And he did that. Of course, yes, it's a lot easier to do that at Alabama because you're bringing up, another 5-star recruit off the bench. But he sat him down. The point got across to Eddie. Eddie came back and balled out after that, broke his leg. That's why he ended up falling in the draft. But it's all about accountability. This is one thing that we've been talking about forever. Hold these guys accountable. Matt Nagy would have his end of season pressers, and when he was interviewing the players when they're exiting, he's like, I had players come up to me and say, hey, coach, we want to be held accountable in front of our teammates on Monday morning after a loss. And I'm like, this is the NFL. How is that not happening? Anyway, these guys, they crave that. You have to handle all players differently. Some guys respond to a really intense coach, but it's all, you have to hold your other coaches accountable. I love it that he's in there. Set the tone with these rookies, because these are the guys that we're going to be moving forward with. And you're going to see they're not all of these vets that come in next week. Not all of these guys are going to buy into this philosophy. It's a simple fact. I mean, is a guy, I don't think they have anything to worry about with Robert Quinn. I think he's a consummate pro, but there's going to be some guys that I look at. I'm not saying that Cody Whitehair is not going to hustle, but I think he needs to get his ass into shape. You know what I mean? And that goes back to the get your track shoes on. This is different. That was one thing with Lovey. When you saw them play defense, it was the gang mentality. Somebody went and tackled, everybody else jumped on, and they're stripping that football. That's got to happen every single down, every single practice, every single rep. It's a mentality that you get into. Going back to Coach Fox, like what you said, if you're going to give him the resort mentality, it's going to happen on the field. And it did.
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate too. And that's one of the great things about Lovie Smith. And you think of the era of players that came on. Obviously, we had great players. Like, let's make no mistake about it. Brian Urlacher, one of the best of all time. Lance Briggs, one of the most underrated of all time. But you think about guys like Peanut Tillman, who invented the peanut punch under Lovie Smith. Mike Brown, one of the smartest players in NFL history. Like, just great, just smart players. And I think that that's the kind of football that we're going to get once again. And the best part of it is we're going to have a quarterback, hopefully, that will develop and play really well. And I know everybody hates Jay Cutler, but it's like Jay Cutler did not get to play with prime Lovie Smith defense, because it would have been a different world. I guarantee you that right now. And so hopefully we can kind of align the quarterback with the defense moving forward. And I'm really looking forward to it. All right, Sammy, what do we got next? I'll try to be able to read this. Do you see a scenario where the Bears extend Pringle, or do you see as a rebuilding wide receiver room through the draft next year? I don't know. I know that you like Byron Pringle. I listen, if they extend him, it's because he's playing well. So I would hope that would be the case.
Yeah. I mean, when I say I like him, I think he's going to give you 700-800 yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns. He's not going to, burst onto the scene like Marcus Robinson did in 1999 with 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. I'm not looking at that. I don't think he's that guy at all, but you have to have a guy that just knows how to do his job. There's nothing wrong with having a 700 or an 800-yard guy opposite Darnell Mooney. I mean, it's smart. He knows how to play football. He knows how to run routes. He's got good hands. Some questionable decisions off the field that he's got to clean up that he's had a history with. But like you said, Adam, if they're going to even approach the subject of an extension, that means he's doing something great on the field. So I wouldn't dismiss it. It's just, you can't talk about it now. I mean, that's something that's going to happen in, November.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the question is he going to play well enough to warrant an extension? I think a lot of us are of the mind that he will. And we think that for that reason, I think we know who he is. When you were, when you look at the Justice League, not everybody is Superman or Batman,
right?
They still need Nightwing. I don't know if Nightwing's part of the Justice League, but you know what I'm saying? Like of the the periphery characters of the Justice League. Like, you just go do your role. And I think that's a nuance that a lot of people miss when they're talking about the way this team is constructed, because with the running backs being as good as they are, and if Cole Kmet can, I know this is a big if, but if Cole Kmet can develop, like, we just need that kind of production that you're mentioning with Byron Pringle. Right. 700, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, maybe 10. Who knows? I think that's what Bears fans we're the ones that expect it. The national media are acting like nobody thinks that we signed Tyreek Hill. Like, nobody is under that impression at all. Like, we're all cool. Like, we don't need to. And I got to say this too, because I saw this on a tweet. Like, people, I think with Bears fans, a lot of us, at least the guys I follow and have it muted, are of the mind of, like, we understand, like, Darnell Mooney, borderline number 1, Byron Pringle, borderline number, but whatever, like, they can be effective, and just scheming them up is going to be an improvement. They should be better. And then, because somebody made a tweet, like, the Bears fans have a modest approach and the media has the media does not have a modest approach.
No, they have a negative.
They're telling
approach.
us that all these guys are garbage, that Darnell Mooney, that's where we're upset. Darnell Mooney is better than a wide receiver 3. Like I've seen national media guys be like, Byron Pringle wouldn't even be on half of the NFL rosters. How did he survive in Kansas City all these years then?
Put it this way. If Darnell Mooney was on the open market this past offseason, what do you think Jacksonville would have paid him if they gave Christian
100 mil.
All day long. But now everybody sees that and they just automatically think that that's fixed in Jacksonville. He'll be back on the market in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, they're going to have to cut him.
We've seen it. Absolutely. So
that's speaking of Jacksonville, man, I don't know, guys. We'll see. Trent Baalke. Anyways, what's the next question, Sammy? Rich rookie, do you think will show up and show out this year? I got my ideas. What about you, Shayne?
Yeah, to me, it's pretty easy. To me, it's Brisker. I just think it's easier for him to make an impact at that position. We talked multiple times on our show. I kept on trying to prepare everybody in the chats over every show. I'm like, guys, don't think that they're just going into this and it's going to be wide receiver or O-line. Don't be upset if they double down on defense. It's the way that the board drops, and the Bears have enough holes. Ryan Poles talked about it. If I didn't draft these 2 kids and reached for a wideout or reached for an offensive lineman, I'm doing the team and the fans a disservice. Brisker is a tone setter, 100%. I think he's going to come in here. He complements what Eddie does. If Eddie can get his head straight and decide to play football, he's going to be a perfect complement to him. But what I love about these guys is it's all about winning, and you hear it with Gordon, you hear it with Velus Jones. We can get into him later, I'm sure. But Brisker all day, I think he is going to be. I think you're going to see those number 9 jerseys by week 8 all over the stadium. He's
100%.
He's got that dog in him like Mike Brown does. He's a relentless tackler. He's a fearless leader, and the Bears need that. They absolutely need that. He is going to come in and set the tone for this entire team. I really believe as a rookie. He's an older rookie at 23 years old.
Oh, no. It's over now.
Yeah, but that doesn't dissuade me at all. I think we
don't want guys with experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a perfect complement. And, hey, I like our secondary right now a lot more than I liked it 3 weeks ago.
You know what? It is night and day.
Yeah.
And we had, forgive me if I get this wrong, but I think it was Shagru who was on with us the Friday that we were going to draft. And I predicted that we were going corner. I told everybody, we're going to go corner. And I thought it was going to be the guy that Minnesota ended up with, actually, because I thought Kyler Gordon would be gone.
Oh, the kid from Clemson?
Yeah. But I was like, whatever. Like, if you would have told me it was Kyler, if I would have known Kyler Gordon was an option. It's like when you're at a restaurant, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, is that still available? Yeah, that's what I'm ordering. I would have gotten, I didn't know that the open bar included top shelf. Yeah, give me the Glenn Gooley blue. So I was kind of like, I knew we were taking corner, and I was fine with it. And I think that the Brisker pick caught me off guard. I kind of, I was thinking wide receiver. I actually had said for months, I want to go wide receiver. The board didn't work out that way, so I adjusted. I'm like, listen, we're not going to go wide receiver with our first pick. That's fine. Let's get the corner. We need it. We need a corner. Brisker caught me off guard, but I do love that pick. As I went back and I studied him a little bit more, I fell in love with him as a player, and I think it's the best way to go. So I'm going to pull up, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. Yeah. I'm paying attention to what you're saying. I just wanted to find this tweet. This is one that I bookmarked. So Ill Will, if you ever see him on Twitter, we got to get him on, by the way. Yeah. I would love to talk to him. So he's been keeping a lot of receipts. I picked up this one from Jeff Bell because I wanted to read this. Sometimes I envision a reality where the Chicago Bears selected George Pickens and JT Woods instead of Jaquan Brisker and Velus Jones Jr. while holding on to the Khalil Shakir pick. I will tell you, I cannot wait for this to age poor. I think that people are so they work. And I said this to Shagru. I said this to everybody. Everybody got themselves so worked up over George Pickens, pretending like he is the second coming of Randy Moss, that, you know what? And he's got a chance because he's in Pittsburgh. Because the only thing that gives me hesitation
he ain't Randy Moss. I'll tell you that right now.
No.
Saying that. Yeah.
But he did go to Pittsburgh, and I mean, you're like, oh well, Pittsburgh is good about drafting wide receivers.
Yeah.
James Washington notwithstanding, but like, God, they do a really nice job. So I'm like, I hope this doesn't come back to bite. Like that was the one team you're like, just don't,
Yeah.
But I cannot wait to do victory laps over that one because I think that Brisker is going to be so good, and I love our secondary now. Our secondary and remember, like in Thomas Graham was a guy that everybody was in love with, after last season. Like he's still on the team. Like look at our cornerback. Like
that Minnesota game, set the tone. He came out and balled out, and then Nagy benched him after.
Of course he did. He did us a favor. Like he didn't get him injured.
That was the point that I brought up. I love Thomas Graham. I love the talent. I was high on him in the draft. He dropped it. He sat out COVID,
right?
That whole thing, which is fine, but I never agreed with just turning it over to him and putting all of that pressure on him day one.
100%.
And to Ryan Pohl's point, if you bring in Kyler Gordon, you need to have a deep secondary in today's NFL. It's the new way. I mean, you're seeing more and more of these corners. I don't exactly agree with them going so high. I couldn't do it, but you see more and more of these corners going top 3 and top 4 every year because teams want to get their guy that can go out and stay with these wide receivers. And, just back to Pickens real quick, Adam. It's not just the fan base. We had a big thing here on our network. Berlissimo was a huge Pickens fan. Pickens wanted him. And Phil and I were never huge on Pickens. We could understand the talent, but there's a lot of question marks. I mean, I know Cars wasn't a big fan of him either, but I just never understood the guy. You go back and you just look at if you want to just base it on stats, he had a couple of big games, but then he would have 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards. And if you're going to make the comp to Randy Moss, I mean, and I know you're not, I'm just saying,
I was just saying,
you're right. Yeah. People in general are saying, hey, this kid is a wide receiver day one coming in fixed. I don't agree with that. And I think it proved out there was people earmarking him as high as 22 to Green Bay at one point. And I think he dropped to a place that he should, go in the draft. But
perfect opportunity for him. They've got Chase Claypool. They've got Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
Their quarterback situation is a little, I don't know. I've liked it better when if they would have, I don't know. Do what you got to do, Pittsburgh.
Didn't you chuckled a little bit when they took Pickett, didn't you?
I was like, why? I don't understand why they did it. Like, I don't think that Pickett is so much of an improvement over Mitch Trubisky to the point of there's a deep quarterback class next year.
Yeah.
Why not give Mitch an opportunity to see what he has? And then if he's not it, and he turns out it's not going to be a fit, it's not going to work out for you, that's fine.
Yeah.
Then you draft a quarterback next year. You'll be able to trade up.
I think that they just know that he's not it. And honestly, I do. It's the same type of thing that you're trying to cover your bases with a guy that has some athleticism, can go out there and play, can go out there and give you some big games. That he's never going to be consistent. It's just not who Mitch is. You never know how the draft is going to fall. These quarterbacks, I mean, it takes one team to fall in love with a guy, and then boom, he's going number 2 overall to the Chicago Bears. We lived it.
Yeah.
So I think that they're just. The truth is in the contract of what they thought about him. I mean, they can get out of it. It's all tied to playing time and stuff like that. So Mitch is going to be a one and done in Pittsburgh, and it's going to be. I mean, I'm not going to say it's out of the realm of possibilities that Pickett beats him in camp. Honestly,
he will.
I don't think Mitch is the guy.
No, not once they drafted Kenny Pickett, it was over for Mitch.
Yep.
His contract. Because we talked about this on Total Access, and the guys were like, "Well, I'm like, he did not sign for big money. Like he signed back. It's a backup money. It's a backup quarterback situation.
Sure.
That's what that contract is. And once you have 2 guys who are even, you're going to go with the rookie. It's just the way it is.
Yeah,
and
business. Yep.
LaDainian Tomlinson was on set with me though, and he goes, "You always go with the rookie." And I looked at him and I go, "Do they always?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "LaDainian, do they always go?" This was on air too. I go, "Do they always go with the rookie? Do they? And then he finally clicked into him. He's like, "Oh, you're talking about my situation. And when they started Doug Flutie over Drew Brees, I don't know. That worked out well for the Chargers.
Sure did.
That still pains me. You want to talk about teams, and I'm sorry, it's a football thing, but like how you draft LaDainian Tom, like think about this. Like we'll be reading about this, and like our kids will be reading about this in textbooks one day, turning to us like, wait, hold on, Dad. The Chargers drafted Drew Brees and LaDainian Tomlinson in one draft and then never won a Super Bowl. Like, no. And like, but they could have drafted Larry Fitzgerald. Yes. Who'd they draft instead? Eli Manning. Okay. None of this makes sense, but that's for another show.
He could have been a Bear. You heard that story, right?
Oh my God.
Tomlinson.
Don't even, let's not.
Ted Phillips special again. Makes me mad.
I don't even want to think about that. LaDainian Tomlinson is the closest player to Walter Payton that I think that we've seen.
Love him. Yeah.
In the NFL. Like, I don't think that people talk about LaDainian Tomlinson with enough revered tones as they should. Like, I don't think you guys understood I had Charger season tickets just to go see that guy.
Yeah.
Like, incredible. Such a great player. Such a great player. If I had never seen Walter Payton play, I would say that LaDainian Tomlinson was the greatest running back I've ever seen. You know what? And if you disagree or agree, either way, write sick and then let us know who the best running back outside of Walter Payton you have ever seen in your life. Add that in the comments, and we'll go over that in a little bit. Or probably not. I'll probably ignore it, but whatever. I want you to do it anyways. Let's go to the next question, Sammy. Sorry. I'm derailing us. That's a football talk. Bullets, what's going on? Adam's still holding out for Larry Ogunjobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Have you heard, or do you think that he still signs with Chicago? I mean, the fact that he hasn't signed.
Well, in true Bullets fashion, he's late. He's late to the
what happened? Story. What's the story? What did I miss it?
He's in New York. He's been in New York the last 2 days talking to the Jets, and DJ Reader, one of his closest friends, came out and essentially was saying that the Bears did him dirty. And which, whatever. I mean, it's his best friend, and hey, your best friend's always going to have your back. And I'm not gonna blast DJ for that, but you can't come out and tell me that he's fine, but he failed his physical in April or in March, I guess it was, and he still hasn't signed. So there's an issue there. Ryan Poles would have made this worse by signing him. Yeah, by signing him. So it sounds like maybe, it'll really be telling if the Jets don't sign him, but he's been with the Jets for the past 2 days talking, and the DJ Reader comments just came out about 90 minutes ago before the show.
Okay. So I was I pick up my daughter after school. I was at the book fair. They weren't talking about that at the book fair.
But we can always rely on Bullets for having old news. He's our guy.
Come on. Bullets, he's great. All right. But I still, you know what? Akeem Hicks is not signed anywhere.
I have no issue with them if he wants to come in and play on a good 1 year deal. I love the attitude, and I don't want to sink a bunch of money into Akeem Hicks because his history is he hasn't been staying healthy. But I just think he is a guy you can't undersell the leadership qualities. But I don't think. Seeing Ryan Poles and listening to Ryan Poles at this point, I would be pretty shocked if they brought him in. I mean, they pivoted to Justin Jones pretty
quickly. Yeah, that's another, like, again, like having these conversations with people like, oh, so embarrassing, huge hole at the 3 technique. I'm like, they signed Justin Jones almost immediately, and he's out. Like
he was heading to Indy to sign a deal and
pulled him off the plane.
Yeah, pulled him off the plane. So hey,
so to speak. I don't think they literally pulled him off the plane. I think that's
well, I read that Lambert had that in one of his articles. So
yes,
you never know.
Literally pulled them off the plane. Like they pulled up like at the end of I can't even remember the name of the movie. That makes that reference stupid. Why can't Argo, the end of Argo.
Yeah.
Where they're chasing him. But in any event, they did a nice job of replacing him. Hicks is out there still. Although I would just say this at this point, like just sign with the Rams. Like just go sign with the Rams, take a run at the Super Bowl, sign with San Francisco, somebody who's closer. That's fine. Like I have no issue with that. But if you want to come back to Chicago on a team-friendly deal,
where his mom lives,
we'll be happy to have you. Be happy to have you. He's a great
take him.
player. I will always support him. I still support, and I don't know how you feel about this. I'll always support Allen Robinson too. So
Yeah, I like I said, we base a lot of what we do on tape, and I saw some things that I did. I think Allen's a great guy. I just think it got to the point where he didn't want to be here, and it showed up on some of his tape, unfortunately. Do I think he's going to thrive in LA? I do.
100%.
Yep.
100%. All right. What's the next question? What position do you think has the weakest starter? Well, you know what? Without seeing the offensive line, I know that everybody's making a big to-do about the right guard position. And for me, I think that if that's what it comes down to, like if that's where we're looking at it, like this is where we're in trouble, I think that's a pretty comfortable place to be in. I think that's probably something that might be solvable over the next couple of months. And I think that I think starter wise, I don't think that we're in a bad spot. How do you feel?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I don't think you can go anywhere else but right guard. I know they're pretty high on Zach Thomas, and they invested in the offensive line. I really have no problem with any of the offensive linemen that they brought in late in the draft. I know some people they just assume that if they get brought in late that they're not going to be good players, and I mean everybody knows it doesn't work that way. But to me, it's obviously right guard. I'm interested in 3 technique for the simple point is it's the engine that makes the cover 2.
Right.
It's
100%.
critical. And that's why they focused on Ogunjobi right out the gate, because that's Greg Gabriel talked about when they hired Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith was in there every single day leading up to the draft. You got to get me a 3 tech. You got to get me a 3 tech. And they went out and drafted Tommy Harris, and they came back. Tank wasn't really a 3 tech, but he was a guy that could play there. They drafted those guys 1 and 2. And right now, I think the Bears got some guys there that can make some hay. You know, Angelo Blacks and Mario Edwards is another guy that I was high on in the Eddie Goldman draft same year.
Yeah.
Another thing, you know, he's just got to stay focused on football and not get into the off the field stuff. I think he's a guy that fits that. But back to your point, Adam, I know Hub Arkish said that there's no way that Akeem Hicks can play the 3 technique. Well, Hub better change his hoop earring, because Akeem Hicks would destroy people as a 3 tech.
100%
defense.
Yeah.
And,
that's why I still hold out hope a little bit.
Yeah. But I would say right guard, and I do have my eye on 3 technique just because it's so critical to this defense.
That's fair. That's fair to say. And I think that, these camp battles will be very illuminating over the next couple of months. And so, and it might not get solved this year. It might be a thing where that's where we go next season, like where we have to start approaching.
It's going to be a good defensive line draft in 23 also. And hey, a lot of people don't realize that. I'm just one of those sick guys that loves it. So I know that, and it's going to be a big draft for defensive linemen, and don't think that Ryan Poles doesn't know that too.
Yeah, he's well aware. Like I think exactly. there's definitely a plan. And I think that, again, going back to a lot of these comments, that is the most critical thing. Like these players might or might not work out, but you can see the plan is in place.
Yeah. And he's not locked into anybody that he signed. Mainly 1-year deals or 2-year deals that are easy to get out of after 1 year, and they're $130 million under the cap. So it's going to be wide open next year.
Yeah, still signing some players. That number will dwindle down a little bit, but still a very envious position to be in at the moment. All right, let's go to another question, please, Sammy. And guys, is the Herbert Ebner backfield the future? I really do believe that they'll end up bringing in a number of, they're just going to bring in players, but I think that we're pretty well stacked at the running back position. I feel very comfortable with the guys that we have, even whether we, extend David Montgomery or not. How do you feel?
Yeah, this is the great debate on our show. And I know if Phil's watching, he's probably throwing something against the wall because he hates talking about it. I love David Montgomery, the talent. I love David Montgomery, the leader. Do I think they're going to extend David Montgomery? I don't. I don't think they are. I think that the Ebner pick, not saying that he's going to come in here, and don't forget the guy that they They brought in Darrington Evans. They didn't
Yeah.
sign him as a free agent. They claimed him. So they claimed that contract. That means that they really liked him. That was a 3rd-round draft pick. They claimed that money. They get that bonus money that even comes. So they see something there. So now you're talking about Darrington Evans, the 2nd-year progress of Khalil Herbert. They go out and they draft Ebner. Are they going to throw more money at David Montgomery on top of it? And with me saying that doesn't mean that I don't think that he's a fabulous talent. I think realistically, with him being a 3rd-round draft pick, I think David's going to want to get paid and he's going to want to see what's out there because, 3rd-round draft pick money is nice, but it's not, FU money. Let's just say that.
It's very true.
And running backs, their shelf lives are short anyway. And when you extend a running back, it's a literal minefield with extended running backs. So do I think that Ebner and Khalil Herbert? Yeah, I think that they're going to be here. Ebner, I'm not looking so much as a running back. I think Getsy saying that he's a weapon. I think you're going to see him deployed with running backs. I think you're going to see a lot of him in the slot. Used a lot in the passing game because, man, you want to talk about a guy that's got some sweet hands for running back, that he's that dude. But the name that Darrington Evans has to stay healthy, but there is talent there, and nobody talks about this kid. And the Bears thought enough of him to assume that they, like I said, they did not sign him as a free agent. They claimed him, so they see something there.
Yeah, and he played in Tennessee, and obviously Eberflus got a sizable opportunity to see him up close and personal. I think that, trying to remember, there was one specific game against the Colts that stands out. I can't think of it, so maybe I'm imagining this. But you also, too, when you look at this year's draft and you start doing player comps, and James Cook, who was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, I know that a lot of people make it's Dalvin's brother, so that's his comparison. James Cook actually compares very favorable to Darrington Evans. Yeah. And I think that if Evans can stay healthy, like that was one that stood out to me too, because he was always something, like, as a fantasy dork, like he was always somebody that you had to have, especially if you had Derrick Henry. But it's like he has his own special skill set.
Yeah.
That can find his way onto the field. So I think they're going to find a way to do that.
And he brings you special teams ability as a return guy. So you want to have your back. I mean, you got that with Ebner. You got that with Velus. You have that with Darrington Evans. So they're adding guys there that are going to be able to contribute in different spots that may not get 30 snaps in a game, but they're going to come in, give you 15, but they're going to be 15 meaningful snaps on offense, and then they can be your return guy also.
Yeah, that is one of the things I think that went a little bit underreported in this draft was how many players the Bears drafted who were standouts on special teams.
Yeah.
And it is going to be such a big part of the Bears offense. And all you got to do is look at that Green Bay 49ers playoff game from last year to show you the importance of special teams. For anybody who's old enough to remember the Devin Hester era of the Chicago Bears, and going back to Lovie Smith again, how important special teams was. Like the Bears, you got to understand, the Bears almost won a Super Bowl exclusively with defense and special teams. They had Rex Grossman going up against Peyton Manning. And you can say what you want about Peyton Manning choking in the playoffs. I've said it plenty of times. But still, like, you were in a Super Bowl with a chance. You had the ball with a chance to win. And it was based solely on defense and special teams. And of course, if it wasn't raining and some guys didn't slip, who knows what could have happened. But this is going to be a great signature of this team.
Absolutely. But you bring up Devin Hester, one of our TTNL Network patrons. I forget who his name is, so I wish I could credit him here. So Kevin Fishbane, don't take it out on me tomorrow on Twitter. But
he's on it. He's already typing up the tweets. He's got a thread going.
But he talked about Devin Hester coming. He was a 24-year-old rookie coming in and making an impact. And that's does Velus Jones, does his age, does it matter as a 20? I think it absolutely. I think it does matter. I don't think it's going to affect him as a player whatsoever. It's no different than the Bears signing Allen Robinson as a free agent. You looked at him as a 25-year-old free agent, and you're like, man, this dude's super young.
Yeah.
But you come in, and if you get any type of, you get him to play good football for 3-4 years, it's fine. But it's I think that the age part he can come in a little bit more mature, and he talked about that. I did like him showing up in a suit and ready for business. I did like
Love
seeing that
that.
part of it. But yeah. So.
Love that. I think I made the joke on your guys' show the night of the draft that he's able to rent a car.
Yes,
That's going to be huge.
Yeah.
And I made this point on Twitter, and obviously the Vikings idiots don't understand nuance or anything, because everybody's talking how great it is that AJ Brown is joining the Eagles. And I'm like, yeah, him and Velus Jones are the same age. They tried to say that Velus was a year older. I'm like, nope, they're the same age, a couple months apart. I go, and they're like, oh, so you think he's the same as AJ Brown? I'm like, no. But I'm telling you, like, how different age looks. Like, AJ Brown's a young receiver to the Eagles.
Sure.
Like, all those his pre 25 years, that doesn't matter to Philadelphia. He used up a lot of those great years in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So did Velus. They both used up their prime
right?
years in Tennessee, in the state of Tennessee. What I'm saying is, like, these receivers do not play. You don't get their second contract. They're already bouncing. And going back to somebody earlier who was talking about, like, do we extend Byron Pringle? I hope that Velus Jones is so good that after 4 years, people are like, are they going to extend him? And they're like, who cares? We got 4 great years out of him. He's going to be 30. I honestly don't care. Yeah. Like, that's just go out and play well now. Like,
we're talking about extending him at 29 years old, then he did something right. Hey,
it's good.
Same thing. Yeah, we'll take it.
It'll be a great problem to have. All right, Sammy, what about another question? Who do you want to see us play in week 1? Does it matter to you? I've got thoughts on this. Who do you like?
Well, the rumor out there is that it's going to be Detroit, that I've heard in Soldier Field. So yeah, who doesn't want to start off 1-0? I see.
Dang.
Is that any big proclamation though, beating Detroit?
There is somebody always pops up, some Lions fan always pops up.
Don Burr, yeah, he's
Jeez.
He talks about Jared Goff, but he talks about the exploits of Jared Goff when he was a Ram, not in Detroit. Yeah. So that
wasn't last year.
Poses a bit of a problem, but it's always fun to draft a wide receiver high that doesn't want to be there already. So
already looking to transfer out. He wants to enter Connor Orr's transfer portal already. And that was the thing too. Like, somebody, I made that joke about, like, Olave and Jamison Williams would want to transfer in, and some clown was like, Justin Fields is not as popular as you think. And Don Burr,
there he is.
God bless him. I tease the Lions fans. Listen, we got to pick on somebody. Like, we can't pick on the Packers. Like, we gotta punch down. I tweeted this out too. So I'll ask you. The very first ever Thanksgiving game was the Detroit Lions playing host to the Chicago Bears. I think it was 2 out of the last 3 years the Bears have played Detroit on Thanksgiving. Like, you have to play a Thursday game no matter what.
Make it the early game. I like it to be the early game. Yeah, that's what I want.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I saw somebody, I think it was I don't want to say who it was because you're on. So I won't say who said it, but somebody was like, I want as much, like, and I'm not knocking them, but they're like, I don't want to have our work week disrupted. I'm like, nobody does. Like, nobody loves the Thursday games. Like, that's why you want to have, like, if you're going to have one Thursday game, might as well be Thanksgiving and get it out of the way. Like, if it was up to me, like, my little schedule things is number one, I would limit the number of Thursday games to the point of, like, you don't have, like, you're coming off your bye week when you play a Thursday game, if that makes sense. Like, you shouldn't have to play 3 days later. And I think that, listen,
like the Bears did in 20. You remember that? What, 3 games in 12 days?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Thanksgiving game. That's crazy.
Like, just, you can work it out. Like, I know the person who does the schedule always makes it so challenging. I'm like, you do that to yourself, bro. Like, you can make this as easy.
Doesn't he have a familiar name?
Oh, is it Mike North?
Yes,
it's not our Mike North. It's a different Mike North.
Yes, that's what it was. I knew it was a familiar name.
And he always makes it like a big thing. And I'm like, they don't let me talk to him anymore. Because I'm like, first of all, you should have no interdivision games in the first month of the season. Week 5, it should be rivalry week. Boom. We would play the Packers every year, week 5, and then whatever other game they played.
That makes sense.
Then,
I like that.
The bye weeks,
more week 18 or week 17 in Minnesota. They need to change that too.
That can change. And also the bye weeks should just be like 2 divisions at a time, 8, 9, 10, 11, those weeks. They're like, yeah, but you got to work. I'm like, nobody shares the stadium anymore.
Yeah.
They're like, well, Baltimore shares a part. Who cares? Like, I don't care. I don't, if a bunch of Raven fans have to Uber in, I don't care about that. But that's just me. I think there's a lot of things.
So who do you want week 1?
Well, I would say at home, Detroit at home for week 1, and then we'll play them on Thanksgiving. That'll be our split with Detroit. Although I hate division rivals in the first month of the season. But if I had to pick, actually, let's play New England. Mac Jones, Justin Fields. Let's go.
Yeah, boy, they invested a lot into getting weapons for Mac Jones, right?
I mean, they got Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's good.
Devontae Parker.
By the way, I don't want you to see what cup this is because I don't want people to get upset.
Oh, I saw it.
Damn it. It's from the press box. I was a working member, and like they're nice cups. Them and the Rams give out like a damn. Like okay, like I'm gonna furnish my house with this flatware.
They're gonna be really good this year, so you can give it to Kyle Brandt because he'll be rooting for them.
Oh my God! Please don't do that, Kyle. I love Kyle. We got time for one more question because again, my daughter is already camped out at the door. Will we beat the Packers at least once this year, Sam, the cardiologist? For your heart health, we were close last year. Again, this goes back to if our defense was better, we might have snuck out a game against them. I am not going to predict a win against the Packers, but I think that one of the games should hopefully be very close. How do you feel?
This isn't just the Bears homer in me. I just think that you're going to see the year 2 step for Justin Fields. I think he is that good, and I think that the Bears are going to take some of their lumps, but I also think that they're going to surprise people. Am I going to come out here and predict that the Bears are going to win 12 games? I'm not prepared to do that, but I think with competent coaching, especially on the offensive side, I think that that's going to go a long way. You talked about it early, Adam. Just, I know the NFL is essentially a 3-point league, but our offense was abysmal, absolutely abysmal. And they have a, really nice running game. I like some of the guys that they brought in on the offensive line, and that's only going to make things better for Justin Fields. And I don't say this ever, and I'm ready to say it. I think Justin Fields is going to be the guy that Chicago Bears fans have been waiting their entire life for. I believe in that talent. I believe in that kid. I think we all deserve it as a fan base, and I fully expect it to happen. I believe in the kid. And so
I agree.
Bring on, you know what? Bring on Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. Just like you said. Just like you said that night we drafted him. Don't go anywhere, Aaron. We want you. We want you in Soldier Field. Yep. I want to see the discount double check right back in his face. We'll send him home. I'm going to send Aaron Rodgers' mother a Justin Fields jersey. She'll wear it. She doesn't like him. So.
Oh, damn. Shayne. Saying the things I want to say, but I can't say them. I can say it. I don't care. I've said worse things, I think, on NFL Network. I agree. Fine. I'll predict a word. I'm going to predict us to win 10 games because Kyle said I was going to, and I don't want to make Kyle a liar. So I'm going to come out and say it. I like that Kyle said, by the way, when Kyle says that stuff, it's putting me over. So I think it's cool. I think it's funny. I don't take offense. He's
one thing I will agree with him, man. I think, man, Buffalo is legit.
Oh my God. Like
they are going to be, if I was putting $5,000 down today on who I think is going to win it all, I'd put it on Buffalo. I believe in them. I believe in them.
I would too. All right. Well, listen, Shayne, I'm sorry we got to cut this short, but I'm going to be on with you guys tomorrow. So
yes, sir. That's right.
I won't be going very far.
8:30 p.m. TTNL Network.
We'll have to be on at 8:30. Can I join later?
Oh yeah, no, you can. Yeah, I think we usually
you guys go for 4 hours.
I know. We have to Phil and Cool Kennedy have their album dropping, so that's probably going to be a big part of what we're talking about. Those two love their music. They do an awesome job, so I got to give it up to them. But I think we have you scheduled for like 9 or 9:30 East.
I got to be better about positioning my microphone so you can see my sick merch.
There you go.
Take a sick day. But anyways, thanks so much for being on. I'll see you in about 24 hours. Appreciate it. And by the way, thanks to everybody. I know whenever we have you on, Shayne, I know we get a ton of questions. I hope we answered as much. We didn't read, you know what? We'll have to pick it up. So tomorrow night, when I come on, I want to talk extensively. We thought we'd talk about Velus Jones. We didn't really get a chance. That's how much good stuff is happening with the Chicago Bears. So we'll be on tomorrow on the Tape Never Lies Network. We'll talk about Velus Jones. I'll go out and start swearing some more. I got Sammy. Sammy's a young man. I don't. Sammy's a nice Canadian boy. Like, I don't like to offend his ears.
Fired up. He's got that number one.
He's fired up. He got the number one pick. Like, it's been obnoxious when we came on with Sammy and Anello, his dad, who do a great job, and can't thank them enough for everything they do. But thank you, Shayne, for coming on.
Thank you.
God bless your family. Glad everybody's doing well. And we'll see you in about 24.
Have fun at the game.
Thanks, buddy. We'll see you soon. There he goes, the great Shayne Marsaw. I think I gave him the age again. I cannot say it. I'm going to practice it. But thanks again to everybody who is joining us here tonight. A lot of cool stuff going on with the Chicago Bears, so we appreciate you being here. We'll be back Thursday. The podcast will be dropping with a special guest. That means I haven't booked anybody yet. But we have a special somebody. Listen, it's me. You know it's going to be somebody awesome. So make sure that you like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this show, just type in the word sick. Thank you so much. We will see you Thursday. And until that time, Sammy, bear down.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.